The Milwaukee Brewers, man, these guys are on a roll, playing their best baseball of the season. Made it 5 in a row after a win over the Minnesota Twins, sweeping that series. And the offense is picking up the pitching at times. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everybody. Third hottest game in AmFam/Miller Park history. Today, 97 degrees. There were two other games that exceeded 100. That was back in 2012 when they played the Marlins. And the Brewers were able to get this one. They were able to come back and win this game 8-7 in a thrilling game. If you went out there, you enjoyed a good one. I hope you all were safe out there and all that. I did watch it from the friendly confines of my house. Didn't have to cover the game today. Went up for a jog afterwards. Not sure that was a real good idea, but I had to get it in. I didn't feel like going to an air-conditioned gym to do it. I wanted to do it outside. So bottom line is we all made it through the hot weather, and the Brewers are just as hot. 5 in a row right now. They're playing some great baseball. And yet today, Corbin Burnes didn't have his A game, but the offense rescued him. And that's what team baseball is all about. Good to have you along, everybody. My name is Chuck Freeman. Thanks for joining me on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Download us every day. Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major platforms out there. I list them all on my Twitter account, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. And, of course, on YouTube, our growing audience on YouTube. Go to our YouTube page. Go to YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button once you get us. Hit that like button. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Excuse me. Yeah, I love every day getting up in the morning and seeing how many people have watched the episodes, have increased our listenership, our volume. I mean, this show is doing better than several major markets out there. And that's because of you great fans out there. The Brewer fans are the best. I've said that several times on this show. I mean, you guys, can you imagine what it would be like if the Brewers had some of the success, like, let's say, the Boston Red Sox have had? Perennial contenders. Now they're not contending this year, but, you know, for the most part in their history, they've been contenders. Imagine if the Brewers were like that. You're still packing 38,000 into AmFam Field with 0 World Series championships and 1 World Series appearance. That's how good. What would this base like? What would this fan base be like if they were actually championship contenders year in and year out, and they were playing on a even playing field with everybody else, and can afford to go out and get themselves a Pete Alonso and not worrying about losing him, or a CC Sabathia and not worry about losing him, or Prince Fielder once a rookie gets good, knowing he's going for higher dollar somewhere else. It'll never be that way because that's the way baseball is. But the bottom line is our fans, the Brewer fans, are the best. I'll stack our fans up with the accomplishments that have happened in Milwaukee, which are very few. I mean, you just got to go to this. The ceiling experience, as much as I love that at AmFam Field, it's probably nice and air conditioned in there today. As much as I love it, it's basically 10 minutes of failures. We've had a couple of highlights in there, but then eventually it would lead to failure. 81, 82, 87. Robin Yount's 3,000th hit, 92. That season led to failure. Always led to failure. Like to think someday it's going to be a new day with the Milwaukee Brewers. But, you know, the Brewers are hanging in there. They're in first place right now in the NL Central. The Cubs won. The Brewers won 8-7 over the Twins in extra innings. And really, the story in this one, well, the Brewers were able to battle back. They were down 6-3 in this game because Corbin Burnes put them in a hole. Gave them 3 home run balls, and yeah, it was a terrible performance. Coming off one of his best performances of the year, the 7 innings and 2 hits in his previous game when they lost in Los Angeles. Comes back this game, and he got no run support in that game. Comes back in this game, and he was giving up rockets. He was just giving up rockets, and a bad day at the offense. Did not blame it on the weather. Didn't put any blame. Just had a horrible day. And but Corbin is going to bounce back. Hey, they all the great pitchers, they have one of those type of games. Don't be slinging mud at Corbin for one bad start, because he's been pretty darn good, especially since the beginning of July. But the offense came back, down 6-3. Willy Adames cranked the 2-run home run, and then Tyrone Taylor continues to add to this team when many of us, including me, have given up on him. Blasted one to left field to tie it up. And then extra innings, Adames, they're down 7-6. Adames ties it up with an RBI base hit. And then Bryce Terang gives the Brewers the win with a little dribbler down the third base line. You just knew. As soon as that ball was hit, a little bouncer, kind of reminded me of the last homestand when there was a ground ball by Monasterio hit the short, and the Brewers were able to get the win. I believe either an extra innings or the bottom of the ninth inning in that game. Probably it was the bottom of the ninth inning. Another walk-off win. Terang, you knew he was going to be busting it down the side, down the first base line, and sure enough, he did. And winning run scored. He was safe. We don't go to an extra inning, and the Brewers win it 8-7. 7 walk-off wins. The first for Bryce Terang. Now, when I saw that number, 7 walk-off wins, honestly, I was like, oh man, there's like 15 of those this year. Because how many times, especially at home, these all have to be at home. Because I feel like, well, of course, a walk-off win is at home. What am I thinking? Unless it's at a neutral field. Yeah. The 7 walk-off wins. Sorry, I just had a 100-degree moment there. The 7 walk-off wins. It seems like, how many times does a guy get the game-winning hit and he's running around in the infield and they're chasing him down and trying to dump the Gatorade bucket on him and all that. But I feel like most of their wins have been walk-off wins this year. But great to see. How about Uribe cranking it up to 103.1? 103.1 Uribe got it to. He went to 104 in the minors, but 103, 100 degrees out, and Uribe is going 103. I mean, how cool is that? But Willy Adames coming through with the big knock there, and then the big single in the 10th inning. Adames, in his last 12 games, 15 of 47, batting right around 316, I think that is, 4 homers. He was asked after the game, Willie, what's the difference? He says, nope, sticking to his routine. Sticking to his routine. He's owning his badness and all that. Sticking to his routine. Doesn't look like he's changed anything in his batting stance. Sticking to his routine and delivering for the Milwaukee Brewers when they needed him most here down the stretch in August and hopefully into September. So that was great to see. Tyrone Taylor continuing to get hot. Hey, trying to find him at bats. That's a good problem to have, because there's a time with this Brewer lineup I was like, please, anybody. Keston Hiura's hitting 22 home runs down in Nashville, and he can't even get a glimpse. He can't even get a glimpse from Brewers management. Continues game after game, clouding home runs, and Hiura is staying down in AAA. But Tyrone Taylor continues to rake. At one point, I was like, man, maybe they should trade out Taylor for anybody. Hiura, anybody, because Taylor was just so bad. But he's really turned it around and coming up with clutch hits. Clutch hit Tuesday night, big one Wednesday. He was terrific on that road trip where he played in 7 of the 9, started in 7 of the 9 games. So he's got to keep that going. We're going to continue on here after this break. Carlos Santana and that bullpen. The bullpen did the job for the most part. a little tweak I'd like to see in the bullpen. We'll talk about that next, coming up here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. And this show is brought to you in part by Sleeper. Do you think you can pick who can hit a home run on any given night against whoever the opposing pitcher is? Well, if you could think that, if you are great at fantasy sports, Sleeper, you could swing for the fences with them up to 100 times the payouts. All you got to do is choose 2 or more players that you like, select more or less in the stat categories, and it's got a ton of stat categories. Home runs, strikeouts, hits, home runs, triples, doubles, they got it all right there. Get your picks right, and you could win big, B-I-G. Use the promo code Locked On. You get a $100 match for your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper terms for details. It's operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. But again, swing for the fences, and they got very quick payouts there. But the key in this is, hey, if you like a certain matchup, if you think a team strikes out a lot and you see a strikeout pitcher, maybe you're contrarian and you go under that night. You get a big number and you think, oh, it's going to go under tonight. Hot day like today, maybe you think, okay, offense, the ball is going to be jumping out of the ballpark today. And it certainly was. With that warm air, you'd have the inside track if you follow your team, the Milwaukee Brewers. But again, Sleeper, download the Sleeper app, take advantage of that payout, or the 100 times payouts, but take advantage as well of the dynamic payouts and the bonus that they're going to add to you, the $100 match for your first deposit. In terms of the conditions apply, but use that promo code Locked On and download Sleeper today. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Thank you, everydayers, for joining us. The Brewers and Padres continue their homestand. The Brewers started a series with the Padres, who they played back in April. Remember, we were staying up late night in April. Brewers were always like on the West Coast, and they knocked off a series with the Padres. They won a series out there, and that's when I felt like they were playing really good baseball. Probably the best baseball other than this stretch right here that they had all season long, that 15-6 stretch that they had. But the Brewers will take on the Padres at a first of 3 coming up on Friday night. You get it on Sirius XM and the SXM app. Search Brewers. You're going to get all 162 of Brewer baseball. And you everydayers out there, thanks for following us along every day. Download us on Google, Spotify, Apple. You go to my Twitter account. I list all the various platforms. Go to YouTube. My Twitter account is Chuck Freeman, by the way, FREIMUND. Go to YouTube, search Brewers, search Locked On Brewers, and hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell. It's going to alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Okay, we'll come back and we'll talk about Santana. I'm loving me some Carlos Santana. Little update on the Frelick injury. The Twins were able to use their closer for a second inning. And a look ahead of the Padres series. All that next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Whether you're on vacation up north, maybe up in Wild Rose, Eagle River, had a guy listening to our podcast while sitting on a pier in Three Lakes, Wisconsin, message me. Thank you very much. And all over the world, all our listeners, Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major downloads, you get us right here on Locked On Brewers. All right. Santana, I feel like Carlos Santana is hitting a lot better than his batting average would say. Carlos, are we keeping accurate stats on Carlos Santana? Because I feel like Santana, the clutch factor is definitely there for that guy. But you look at Carlos is batting .227. He had 2 hits today. Are they keeping track of his? And I feel like Joey Wiemer has like 0 for 4, like 5 nights in a row, and his average still stays at .212. Are they taking Santana's hits and giving them to Wiemer? Because Wiemer's batting average never changes, and I feel like he never gets a hit. Yet Santana's going out there hitting home runs, and his OPS is not great with the Brewers. I don't get it. I mean, I feel like he's really, really clutch for this team. Came up with another couple of knocks today, 2 for 4. Love me some Carlos Santana. At first, we were all at the trade. Yep. I mean, obviously, would I rather have Pete Alonso? You bet. But Carlos Santana, a perfect upgrade. Somebody put on Twitter, or no, somebody put on the YouTube comments, why do I dislike Rowdy Tellez? I don't dislike it personally. I just think for a guy who's batting in the 3 position, which he was to start the season, and I even said back then, Rowdy Tellez batting in the 3 hole, we need better contact from a guy hitting in the 3 hole. And he started off, he was banging home runs early, okay? Like middle of April, I want to say he got on a little bit of a run. Then he stalled for 2 months on 12 homers. But yeah, he's a major leaguer. There's no doubt about it. Is he an everydayer? Not on a team. He's not an everyday player, first baseman, heart of the order guy on a team that's a division leader and has aspirations of, maybe knocking off the Dodgers and surprising us and making a deep run into the postseason. Yeah, I think if you looked at, if I took a poll here, Carlos Santana, Rowdy Tellez, who would you want as your first baseman? I think everybody would say, well, Carlos Santana. The eye test, the history. I've seen him with the Pirates. I like Carlos Santana. So nothing against Tellez. I just want Santana, and I just think Tellez needs to come off the bench and find at bats for him wherever they can. Amazing, though, how a guy went from third in the order on this team to dropping down a little bit to not even being able to crack the lineup. Wow. Sal Frelick, RBI. I should say the MRI he had done. He had an MRI done on the hamstring. Hopefully it's not going to be too long for Frelick. He was available to play in the game. But Frelick has got the hamstring. Another thing, they don't have to rush him. You want to get him back as soon as possible. But Tyrone Taylor is doing a nice job out there in the outfield. And, Taylor started in center field today, moved to right field. Weimer played center field after Canha was spelled in right field by Weimer. And I want to see Canha in the everyday lineup. Yeah, I want to see, we got these guys. I feel like Canha, the veteran he is going to give this team even more big at bats here down the stretch. I want to see Mark Canha in the everyday lineup. Everydayer. Mark Canha, Carlos Santana. Keep them in the lineup every day. All right. What else? Oh, Jackson Chourio had set the single season RBI record in Biloxi. Incredible. Chourio just continues to churn out hits for Biloxi, and good for him. And good for the Brewers. And I can't wait till he's up here. I can't wait till he's a major leaguer. All right, we'll tell you about the Padres series coming up a little bit. Oh, one more thing. Duran, who lost the game, okay, in the bottom of the 10th inning, but the Twins took the lead after Duran pitched the 9th. Twins took the lead, and they brought Duran back in the 10th, which I think is a good idea. And I put that on Twitter, and every time I put that on Twitter, some of you people agree with me, some of you ghost me. But today, of course, Duran blew it, and you come at me like, oh, how did that work out, Freeman? One time? No. I would rather have my closer. Devin Williams. If I was in that situation, if the Brewers were in that situation today, Devin pitches the 9th. I want him coming back and pitching the 10th if I'm on the road and the Brewers take a 7-6 lead on the road. How about that? Yeah, I want my closer pitching 6 innings. In a big game, you don't have to do it in May or June, but we're trying to win a pennant here. So, yeah, my closer, I'm good with him going 6 innings. 6 innings. Well, 6 innings. This is at 1943. I'm good with him going 6 outs. The pitching matchups we're going to get to in a little bit. We'll get to some of your tweets and a few other things as we head down the home stretch. The Brewers and Padres 7-10 coming up on Friday night. Sirius XM. Get the 162 Brewers schedule completely, every game on Sirius and Sirius XM. Search Brewers on Sirius XM app, and you'll find the Brewers broadcast right there. The TV broadcast, Heard they had some issues today. At the beginning, well, they did. I was watching it, and I thought it was my TV, and then they put up technical difficulties, and they ran the radio broadcast, I believe, through there. That was fixed in no time. But hey, those things happen. Those things happen to everybody. But yeah, you're going to get all the games on Sirius XM. All right, we return. We'll get your tweets. Speaking of TV, Vinny and Tim Dillard. Love me some both of those guys. All that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Your host, Chuck Freeman. Show is brought to you in part by Bunches. Bunches, one of our new partners here on Locked On Brewers. Go to the Apple Store, download the Bunches app, and if you've not already done so, join the Locked On MLB Bunch there. Bunches is a social community. When you talk about sports with your fans in real time, you talk about them right here on Bunches. Bunch is a group chat for sports fans. Bunches partnering with Locked On MLB to drive viewership and fan love for each podcast. We got them. We got everything you need on Bunches right there. So when we're done, you take the conversation over to Bunches and you go from there. It's a free app. Sports fans chat on there. Chat about your favorite team on the Locked On MLB group chat. Keep going, and you're going to, chat with various people on there, all in a common community, talking Brewers baseball. Locked On Brewers fans, you need to go to this site. Bunches, a new app built just for sports fans where you could chat sports in real time. Click the link in the show notes below on YouTube, and they're on our podcast drops as well. Or go to the App Store, the Apple App Store, download Bunches today, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about with this terrific new app about fans chattering all across MLB. But keep it clean out there. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Some of your tweets out there, want to get to them. Had not got to some in recent days because we've been pretty full of things. So here we go. Out there, Bill Jacobson disagrees with me about running a closer out there for a second inning. He says, running your closer out there for a second inning should be a default fireable offense. Glad Baldelli mismanaged the bullpen in extras. Now, I was actually cheering him because he was pitching his closer in extras. And if it had worked out, Bill, I probably would not be getting a tweet from you. Mississippi Brew fan says, I'm sorry, Elvis Peguero needs to go. Every time he steps on the mound, I grit my teeth. Thomas says, after I put a closer going out there for 6 outs, he says, how did that work, Chuck? And of course, the typical, somebody's going to put this out there when your tweet goes wrong. Chuck, this tweet did not age well. Yes, I get it. Dave says, let's see how they can keep this. Let's see how far they can keep this going. Buck says, Burns and his occasional home park dud. Frustrating. Need this one with the ace on the mound. Well, they bailed him out. How many times has Burns pitched his butt off and had no run support? Well, last week against Los Angeles, that happened. Yeah, most recently. There's a few more along the way as well. But yeah, they did win with Burns on the hill. 3 home runs. When's the last time the Brewers won with Burns giving up 3 home runs? I wonder if that's ever happened. All right. Here are the pitching matchups coming up this weekend for San Diego. It's an off day on Thursday. Off day on Thursday for the Brewers. They had an off day Monday and Thursday. 2 off days in 1 week. That's a treasure for these guys. Trust me. Especially since they're home and they're not traveling between cities. They love the fact that they've had 2 home games, both on Monday, coming back from a road trip, and Thursday. So they came home Sunday night, Monday, and Thursday. Wow, they love that. All right, here we go. Friday, Brandon Woodruff on the hill against Yu Darvish. I like that matchup for Woody. Peralta against Villa for the Padres. The Padres are like 5.5 games out of the wild card chase. They're like 700 games behind the Dodgers in the division. So they're just barely hanging on. These are big game for the Padres. Big games this weekend. So Peralta and Avila on Saturday. Hauser pitches on Sunday. Adrian Hauser against Mike Wacha. Michael Wacha, I believe before it's all said and done, Michael Wacha is going to pitch for every single team in Major League Baseball. How about that, everybody? 5 in a row for the Milwaukee Brewers. Yes, as I said at the top, they're playing their best baseball of the season. Off day. Enjoy your off day, everybody. Let's get back at it Friday for this weekend series with the Padres. I'll be out there on Sunday walking around. I love Sunday afternoon games. I'll be out there. Looking forward to running into you great fans out there. The best fans of professional sports, and I mean it, the Milwaukee Brewer fans. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.